Good morning and welcome back to Miniature Monday here on Gaming with ADHD, where today we are continuing our look at the HexTech 6mm terrain for use with Battletech, or honestly, any 6mm tabletop wargame. For today's video, we're going to be looking at the University Buildings, a two-piece set that is precast and pre-painted from Gale Force 9. Now, before we get into it, do make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I do try to put out a few videos each week covering all sorts of content, whether it's miniatures, board games, role-playing, or honestly anything in between, and I'd love for you to come along and see what we have to share. So, with that out of the way, don't forget, there are links down below to DriveThruRPG and Amazon. They are affiliate links, and if you use them, we appreciate it, but otherwise, we're just glad you're here, and we hope you like what we have to share. So, let's take a look at these buildings. So, as I said before, you do get two buildings in the set. Technically, it is a four-piece set because you will get the two buildings, and you will also get two bases. Basically, that lets you use it without the base for games of Alpha Strike, or you can put the building on the base, and it now has hexes, just like the good old classic Battletech maps. Now, there is a groove that the building sits into, and one thing to keep in mind is that unfortunately the way they're designed probably has something to do with the casting process. I'm not entirely sure, but as you can see, it doesn't fit in exactly. It's not game breaking, it's not really distracting. Some of them are a bit more distracting than others, but overall, it's not a problem. Just something to be aware of. Otherwise, the buildings do also include felt base, so that when you put the buildings directly onto your kitchen table, your significant other's not going to get mad at you for scratching up the table. Always a bonus. So I do appreciate that they put that in there. Overall, I've had terrain from Gale Force 9 in the past, and overall it's generally really good quality as far as the actual construction and the care that they put into it for just the quality of life experience. Again, that felt not necessary, not a bad addition. Now, overall, the design is pretty good. This was originally a 3D printed design, which I believe I have printed. But when I saw these on clearance, it was kind of a no-brainer to pick them up. Again, the detail's nice. We've got these nice big windows. There's these different supports which look decorative, but are actually designed so that you can still take your figures, and if you have a mech with jump jets, there's an explanation as to why he's able to stand on the roof, but it lets you make a quote-unquote normal-looking roof but still have it be playable as well. So I actually really appreciate that. But we've got little details like this doorway on the roof. We've got doorways on the bottom, various different points, these different cooling pipes or whatever they are, air conditioning vent or something, regardless. Lots of details so that, even from a distance, it's going to, stand out enough that you're going to be able, it's not just going to be a blob on the table. The problem we could get into is when we start looking at the paint. Real quick, I want to look at, there are a couple of spots here around the bottom in some of these grooves where you're going to notice sort of these little pimple looking spots. We've got a couple over here. Basically, it's just these artifacts that are left over from the casting process. The molds only really give you about 10 casts at a time, and so you end up with those kinds of things. Usually the manufacturer is going to clean them up, but sometimes not very well. It's annoying to see, but honestly, it could be a lot worse, and it doesn't necessarily distract from the building, but you'll notice it. Sometimes there's bad mold lines, but overall this is fine. Now, The big problem I have, and I've had it with pretty much all of these buildings, really does come down to the paint job. These are from a factory in Malaysia, and so they are literally done by the cheapest method possible. And unfortunately, what that results in is sometimes just a lot of lack of caring. There's a lot of paint slop around the edges. There's missed grooves, here in the edges. Some of these tighter corners aren't necessarily going to look very well either. Some of the little details, like they got a nice dry brush on the AC vents, but then like down here, they didn't paint the entire piece. One big problem that you'll see, like here, this gray paint, like that's just thin. So that's the brown layer underneath that's showing through. And I've seen that a lot on these HexTech models. Just the gray layer that's used is just too thin, and they just don't care. So it's a little frustrating to see stuff like that. It looks fine from an arm's length perspective, but it is kind of one of those where I sort of like, for the retail cost of $35 on these, sometimes I've been debating, I mean, would I rather say spend $10 less and get unpainted versions, or at that point should I just invest in the 3D printer and print them off myself? But comparing them to 3D printed options, that's for another video. Honestly, I know I've said it in other videos, I wasn't planning on getting these, partly because of the cost. I hadn't even seen up close or even reviews of them at the time. But the cost was just kind of an impediment. And so when I actually saw them on clearance, which I thought was odd because they've been out less than a year, but a store I was in already had them on clearance, so it was like, might as well grab a set. And I'm mixed. I'm not upset because the price that I paid for them, it was kind of a no-brainer. They're cast in resin, they're pre-painted, they have these little removable hexi bases. Again, the cost wasn't as big an issue, but then it just comes down to how is the actual quality. So like in this one, you can kind of see those little resin artifacts aren't there anymore. But we've got some extra slop from the brown over the gray. So I'm still mixed. I'm not upset because I know what I paid for them and what I would have to pay for them otherwise. But I also can't give them a ringing endorsement. I'm not going to tell you, hey, run out and grab these, because you'll regret it if you don't. It's a little frustrating in that regards, but overall, it's not bad. I like the look of the building. I have no problems with the color choices. I'm mostly just disappointed in the actual paint job itself. As far as the base, I don't remember if I said it is kind of this rubberized material, so it's a little bit flexible. Don't flex it too much, otherwise you will break it. Like, you can already see it's cracking right there. Didn't notice that earlier, so that's fun to see. So yeah, overall, they're not bad. They're good designs. The original designer is a group called Thunderhead Studios, and honestly, they've done good work. The designs work well. I think they're really playable. I'm just disappointed in the paint job, and I'm also too lazy to repaint them. So it'll be interesting when I mix in my 3D printed terrain, how strict I am as far as the paint jobs on those go. So that'll be interesting to see. But regardless, it's, Gale Force 9, they do good work. Thunderhead Studios made some great designs, but just be aware, you may not be happy with the paint job if you pick these up. So if you find it on sale, I would say go for it. If you're paying full retail, you might really want to wait until you find them on sale. So that would be my honest review there. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. Again, make sure you're subscribed to the channel so that when I do reviews of the 3D printed versions, that you can come back and see what I think there. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time. And other than that, we'll talk to you next time.